Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, a senior producer at Lee and co-host of the program with the king of this podcast's Mojo Dojo Casa House, Bruce Miller, editor of the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter. So, Mr. Mojo Dojo Casa House ruler, you see any good movies this weekend?
Was it a Brewstum? Do you think
Brewstum? Are you leading the patriarchy? Are you in charge of that?
That's right. I can hardly wait. The patriarchy is coming to Barbie Land. That'll be so cool. Actually, this was like, I swear, this will have been the best week of movies of the year.
It's incredible.
Two really big ones. And I saw a lot of people who were trying to do both of them in the same day. When I went, and an awful lot of people dressed up like Barbie, basically. A lot of pink. And then their choice was to go to Barbie first and Oppenheimer second, which I don't know if it was because they felt that they could relax or something. I don't know. But they did like doing the double feature like that. But I would have savored a little bit of it so that I wouldn't have had all the goodness at once, because I think it was interesting. Now, you've got girls who would probably be of a Barbie age, right?
They've outgrown Barbie as a toy or a thing. So they're past the Barbie stage. And this is an interesting movie, too, because this Barbie movie, this isn't a kid's movie. This is sort of an adult-themed, Yeah,
I think that if parents were thinking they're going to send their kids to see Barbie, it might be a bad idea. Because I'm not saying that there's anything in there that's subversive or anything that they shouldn't see, but I don't think they would think it was like past Barbie films where it was, just kind of magic unicorns and cars and God knows what Barbie did back in the past. But it's a spoof in a way of the Barbie motif. I thought it was brilliant the way they were able to make Barbie relevant today.
Yep.
And where you don't dismiss her as just that, that's that kind of obnoxious doll. You know what I mean? Because Barbie has always been seen as, why are little girls playing with anything but a baby doll? And Barbie came around and was like, maybe we like to play with dolls like that. So it's very interesting how they do that. And then they make Mattel look good, which I was shocked about that. I thought Mattel, they have these kind of mean guys who are all male staff at Mattel running the thing. And then they introduce you to the woman who created Barbie. And very fascinating to show how Mattel doesn't come off as a bad guy in this whole thing. No. I don't think. But I do think that a lot of people have been leaning in far too much to the end. Everybody talks about it as the best final line of any movie. And I think, okay, it's interesting, but let's not all get so excited that we lose sight of what came before that.
Right. I really loved it. I didn't know what to expect because I tried to stay away from so many reviews and everything. I wanted to go in with it with a very fresh mind. I obviously read enough of it to know, obviously this is a little bit of a spoof of Barbie. This isn't like some of the Barbie movies that are the cartoonish or the very Barbie type of movies that have been there. This is obviously poking fun at Barbie to a degree. I mean, even in the trailers, says if you love Barbie, you're going to love this movie. If you hate Barbie, you're going to love this movie. And I I'm not a Barbie person, but I went into it thinking like, okay, I want to check this out. It has the pedigree of people in it that, I should like it. I mean, Will Ferrell as the head of Mattel, and I thought he was brilliant in that part. Is his normal Will Ferrellness. I don't always love him in movies, but I thought he played this role very well. And then I thought, Rhea Perlman in that role as, the creator of Barbie did a wonderful job. It was fun to see her. My wife was excited when Kate McKinnon came on screen as Weird Barbie. She loves Kate McKinnon. I loved Kate McKinnon. And so it was kind of fun from that perspective.
She's like every Barbie that every girl did her hair. How many times have you heard anybody who owned a Barbie, I cut her hair?
Oh, yeah.
Barbie was always getting her hair cut, and this is how she turns out. And then she becomes the one who sits in the box without shoes and kind of the wrong outfit put on together, and maybe the makeup got smeared. That is Kate McKinnon in a heartbeat, and she did a beautiful job of kind of leftover Barbie.
Yeah, I was just overall surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I thought I would like it. Greta Gerwig's attached to it. She's becoming a very brilliant filmmaker. And I just thought that, okay, we have enough components here where I'm probably going to like it and it's fine. I can be a dad and go into this movie. There were very few kids in the theater when we went. We went in the afternoon on a Saturday. I only brought one of the two daughters. One wanted absolutely nothing to do with the movie because she hates Barbie. She hates pink things. She hates being a girly girl. I showed her the trailer and I said, like, no, it makes fun of that stuff. And she still didn't want to see it. I guarantee you, as soon as it's on TV, she'll watch it and she'll probably love it. But I'm not going to force a 12-year-old to go see a movie that she doesn't want. So we went, my wife and one of my daughters went, and we enjoyed it. There were one other family, I want to say, that was there. They had kind of like a tweenish daughter, and then there was a really little younger sister with her, which probably was too young for the movie. After that, it was all adults. It was all like older Gen X, younger baby boomers.
It was like women's night out.
Yeah.
And they were dressed in pink. Mm-hmm. I saw two guys come in wearing pink shirts and pink shorts and blazers. So interesting crowd, and they were all from teenage to, middle-aged, I think. It was a fascinating mix, and I thought it had a real big opening day crowd. I was surprised that on opening day it would be that big, but it was. And it was the number one film of the week. So
like by a mile. I mean, 162 million in 4,200 plus theaters. That is insane. And it was, I don't know if you picked up on this, but it actually shattered a record for a film directed by a woman. 162 million. The next best was Captain Marvel, which was co-directed by Anna Boden, and that did 153 million in 2019. And then the Wonder Woman film by Patty Jenkins in 2017, that just did just a little over 103 million. So this was just a huge movie on so many different levels. The number of screens it was showing on just at my little AMC theater in town, it was like 10 a.m., 10:30, 12, 12:30, 1:30. It was just nonstop. And in my theater, it wasn't packed when I went kind of early in the afternoon, but it was constant. I mean, it was the most full I've seen that parking lot in a very long time.
The thing that the success will cause them to want to do a sequel.
Yep.
And to me, okay, but go into those other Barbies, because there's a whole lineup of different kinds of Barbies. You don't have to have Margot Robbie come back and go through some other kind of life-affirming mission or whatever. You could have Supreme Court Barbie. You could have President Barbie. You could have Astronaut Barbie. You could go with all those different ones. And same with Kens. You could have different Kens. So then it's not the same thing. Because I think that's what they're just too eager for. And my favorite of all was Alan.
I was just going to bring Alan up.
Michael Cera was so good as Alan. And you know what I loved is at the end during the credits, you got to see what the doll looked like. And there was, it says, "I can wear Ken's clothes," or something like that. And that was one of his lines. And she was able to grab all those things from costumes that Barbie wore or the different kinds of Barbies there were. If you were a Barbie fan, she did her homework. And I think that really shows with this. I wanted to see a little more Midge, I got to be honest, and Skipper, because those two were, how they tried to let's make every dime we can get out of the franchise. It would have been fun to see those. But they could be potential for a sequel. But I laughed so much. And I do think, if I'm going to predict anything, Ryan Gosling could get a Best Supporting Actor nomination for Ken.
He was good. He played kind of that dopey sidekick kind of, but then when he comes into the real world and sees that, it's not like Barbie Land, and he starts kind of asserting himself and then comes back and creates the Mojo Dojo Casa House, which is my favorite line of the whole thing.
Well, and then he's wearing this fur coat all the time, like he's some rapper or something. You know,
Oh, and the battle at the end. I don't want we don't want to
beach
give away
off.
too many
We're gonna beach
spoilers.
off.
You mentioned that beaching each other off. I think they did a really nice job of towing the line with some of the referencing and that kind of thing to keep the adults happy, but they never really crossed the line where I don't think it was at any point, concerning to have kids in there other than
No,
maybe a few adulty-ish things a little bit here and there. I mean, they got a little anatomical a couple of times, but that was but it was funny.
if anything, kids would be bored
Right.
because they wouldn't get the lines or they wouldn't get the reference. But if you've lived through Barbie, and I think that's most of us, we've seen the kind of things they've done with her, and where it was like Beauty Queen Barbie and all these things where it was promoting a different image than maybe most people thought of Barbie. Because I think when it started, she kind of looked Marilyn Monroe-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then she became kind of this Miss America ideal. And I think that didn't really play well with people who were looking for a doll who was adult.
Right.
But they never play on all of that so that it's a bad thing. Like they make fun of Barbie being these. It's just that she could do anything.
Yeah.
And I love the concept that she could dream to be. Barbie could be whatever she wants to be.
Exactly.
And that's what I think the movie talks about, is that women should have the right to be whatever they want to be.
You brought up Ryan Gosling in this for a possible award season thing. You don't normally see comedies enter into that level of discussion. Could you see this film, though, because of the messaging, the way they approached it, the direction, the screenwriting? Could you see this maybe being that 10th film to get a Best Picture nominee, to get, Best Director nominee for Greta Gerwig, Best Original Screenplay, maybe?
Okay. It's definitely going to be a contender, if not the winner already, for Best Sets and Best Costumes.
Absolutely.
Because those are just brilliant. And then you start looking down the road and you think, well, she's going to get a writing nomination, because here's a way that you can reward. They want to give Greta something over all these years where they've like passed her by. And I think writing could be the one that she could win. I don't know the directing is one that she could win, because you've got those heavy dramas that are in there. But she can certainly be nominated.
Yep.
And I think it'll be nominated for Best Picture, because it's just goofy enough that there's room for it.
Yep. And it was one of those things, and we'll talk about it too as we move on to Oppenheimer, but it was a film that I felt like I really wanted to see it in the theater. And it was funny because I looked at my purchase history in my AMC app, because I saw that on Saturday. I couldn't get to Oppenheimer until Monday afternoon, which was July 24th. July 24th of last year, I saw Top Gun Maverick. I saw that in my history. That was the first movie I went to in the theater since the pandemic. I mean, the last thing I saw before that in the theater was going to the last Star Wars movie twice in December of 2019. So I went to Top Gun Maverick in July of last year. I went to Avatar. That was the next movie I saw in the theater, was Avatar in December. But since then, it's been, it was Barbie movie, it's Oppenheimer, it's Indiana Jones, it was Elemental, it was The Flash, it was Super Mario Brothers. I've been to, like a half dozen movies now, and it feels like we're back. We're back with movies, event level movies, where I don't even want to wait until it's on streaming or anything like that. I have to be there.
Well, and didn't you feel that the crowd reaction helped?
Yes.
If you were sitting at home, you go, you wouldn't really have those good belly laughs that you got out of some of these things. And I don't want to spill any of them, but there were moments when I was just snorting because they were so funny. Yeah.
And, it was interesting too for me, before I went to see the movie Friday night, we had tickets to a pro baseball game. It's kind of one of these, it's not an affiliated minor league team. It's kind of, it's where the players go to keep their careers going. And so we go to this game and we're watching it, and there's a family behind us, and the family includes a few daughters that were, like late teen, early 20 kind of age. And they're talking about Barbenheimer for a couple of innings, and they're giving their critique of, I love the Barbie movie. Oppenheimer was pretty good. We were surprised. It was a little slow at first, but and there I'm thinking, it's like, we're at a baseball game and people are talking about Barbenheimer there. It's almost because it's entered into this cultural, it's a cultural phenomenon in the moment, and no matter where you are, people are talking about it.
Did you go la 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 la? Don't tell me anything about Oppenheimer.
I was. Luckily, my hearing's a little off, so whatever else they kept on yapping about, I missed it, but I picked up on that.
Set summer in motion with the most electrifying Honda vehicles yet, like the CR-V and Accord, with available hybrid powertrains designed to deliver more thrilling performance and more innovative tech. Summer's here. Make every adventure more electrifying with Honda. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 3.9% APR on a 2023 Honda Accord Hybrid or 2023 CR-V Hybrid.
Buy online, reserve from select dealers, or visit your local Honda dealer today.
See dealer for financing details.
You got to see Oppenheimer how I wish I had, which is on IMAX screens.
I did.
How was it really? I would think that when they now here, it's going to sound like I'm spoiling it, but when they test the bomb,
yep,
that would have been really, really cool in IMAX.
Oh yes, Bruce.
All right, you fill me in now. Make me jealous because I didn't see it on an IMAX screen.
Yeah, so I couldn't get to Oppenheimer over the weekend, and I was looking. I wasn't sure if I'd even be able to see it before we talked. I go and I was looking to see where it was playing and when, and I didn't even realize it, but there was an IMAX theater not too far from the office, and I saw that even during the week it was getting pretty filled up. So my best chance to see it in IMAX was at 12:15 on a Monday afternoon. I buy my ticket, I get there, and the place is absolutely packed. Other than the first couple of rows where you're going to get a stiff neck and a few seats off to the side on either end, the place was packed on a Monday afternoon. Wow. I have never in my life been to an IMAX theater. I've been to a few large format type of things in museums and that kind of thing where, they try to immerse you in sound and screen, but I was never actually at an IMAX theater to see a Hollywood film. As soon as I sat in, even just they're going through the previews and I'm already just getting blown away seeing all the movies that I'm expecting to see in the next few months. But then when the film comes up and you're seeing it and that Christopher Nolan filmed it with IMAX in mind, and the imagery is huge and the sound, I'm just swimming in sound, and it's loud, but it's not overpowering. I could just feel it around me. So again, we don't want to give away anything. We want to be as spoiler free as possible, but it's pretty obvious that yes, they do test the atomic bomb in a movie about the atomic bomb. So when they drop it, and it kind of, there's that scene where they don't give you the sound right away. They just give you that flash.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, oh, okay, that's interesting. But then it hits you, and I could feel like you can feel the sound pouring over you as that destructive wave just comes at you. And I was just so blown away by that. I'm so glad I saw that in IMAX.
Did you see Sound of Metal? The one about the musician who was losing his hearing?
It's on my list of I know what you're speaking of. It's in my Amazon Prime. I got to see it, and I've been saying I got to see it for 3 years.
They play with sound in very, very interesting ways, and that was what I was reminded of when I saw Oppenheimer. I thought, he's using all of these different elements. I mean, everything. Cinematography, where he has black and white and color. The makeup, where the makeup techniques are very subtle. They aren't ones where you go, oh my God, he's got a big plastic face on and he's supposed to be old. Okay, I get that, I guess. This is very, very subtle. All of the things the elements are top drawer with everybody. And then when you look at the cast of supporting actors, I mean, it's a it's an independent director's dream cast. And you go, oh my God. And they don't even have lines. Some of those people are just kind of background.
Yeah.
They must have wanted to be in this film so badly. And you go through it and you go, wow, this is clout, where you're able to get these people in this film. Now, I think it starts slowly. I think it's one of those things where don't be thrown off by a film that might seem a little, oh my God, is this sluggish? We're going to get a whole because I thought immediately of Beautiful Mind. I thought, oh geez, it's going to be Beautiful Mind all over again. And then it isn't. And then you get into that whole building process where they're creating Los Alamos and the team he's assembling, and you kind of get, okay, it's like riding a train, and the train keeps chugging, and then it gets a high pitch. And there's a moment, again, this is another one I want to ask you about, when he is greeted by everybody in the room where they again use sound and flashes to see how he responds to the people who are cheering him on. Do you know which one I'm meaning?
Yeah, near kind of later after
and
the test.
Was that a real big kind of scene to watch?
Yeah, that and just the emotion, and because you can see it on his face so clearly being so large, but then the sound into it and the sound of kind of like him imagining the world being destroyed by atomic energy. It filled the theater the whole way through. Absolutely amazing.
And then there's that kind of, oh my God moment when they started talking about a vote that was taken and who was responsible for. And that is just, I think that's one of those kind of cherries on the top that rewards you for hanging with it and also knowing the history.
Yeah. It's interesting because I obviously knew that Cillian Murphy was in there as Robert Oppenheimer. I knew Matt Damon was in the movie, but I really avoided paying too close attention to who was doing what, because I just wanted to go in and see the film. I didn't realize right away that it was Robert Downey Jr. in that role. But it was interesting to me, and let me ask you this as someone who's seen a lot of movies. Like, I went into it, it's a 3-hour film, and it's a drama about the Manhattan Project. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope this isn't boring. You know, I know that there's going to be an arc, and I know there's a lot of story to tell. As I started watching it, because obviously they give you the black and white is meant to be from the perspective of Louis Strauss's character, right?
Right.
And then the color is Robert Oppenheimer's perspective.
Right.
It got me thinking a little bit to how Francis Ford Coppola directed Godfather Part 2, which is also a very long movie, over 3 hours and like 20 minutes. But he used the scenes where he had scenes with kind of the present day Corleone family, but then they also had Robert De Niro's the flashbacks of how Vito Corleone came to power, and they would bounce you back and forth. And I thought with Oppenheimer, how they were able to go back and forth between the black and white and the color, it helped actually move the story along. So you weren't so beaten down by just constant dialogue and stuff. It was almost, in both cases, both movies have very little action. It's more of a drama. Sure. And they use the different jumping around and the color to kind of keep you moving along. So I actually never felt like it was, there was a few moments where it kind of slowly went along, but I always thought it kept me going the whole way through. I
think that your concept is that black and white means it's the past. And that wasn't how he used that. It's right. Just perspective. And so immediately you jump to that. You think, are these old scenes that we're watching here now, is this before something? And it's not. It's actually more of the more contemporary scenes right. of some of the things that they were dealing with. I thought it was very fascinating how Matt Damon looked like a movie star in this. He was a little broader than most of the other actors. The other actors kind of pulled it back a little bit. And he was kind of like the hoo-ha, where you're getting a little more than maybe you want out of him. And I know he'll probably be nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but you see that Robert Downey Jr. is almost invisible as Strauss. Yep. Then he gives it away with a few little gestures of his that are typical Robert Downey Jr. things, but I think it's still a good performance. Emily Blunt, how exciting is she as Mrs. Oppenheimer? She is like, I want to know her, because that one woman would just tell people off, and she was like, just kind of, she had the bitterness that her husband didn't, and she knew how to be just that other side there that you needed. And I think Cillian Murphy pulls back enough that you can just project just about anything on his personality, so that if you thought he was a nut, or you thought he was just this brilliant man who is, you know, doesn't have equals anywhere, there were a lot of things that you could play off his performance, how he modulated that. And, you know, they all talk about how he ate nothing and didn't mingle with the rest of them. And you think, well, if that helped the performance, go for it, you know?
Yeah.
But when I saw like Josh Hartnett sitting there on the couch, barely in it, Rami Malek, who has maybe one decent scene, and these are, and people who are like Oscar winners. Casey Affleck had a little bit part in there too. So
Matthew Modine, it was just like all of a sudden he shows up.
Matthew Modine, I thought, oh, this is your tip of the hat to Ken Burns, because Matthew Modine would be the kind who would like narrate something for Ken Burns.
Right.
Yeah, it was very fun. And Florence Pugh, you don't recognize that that's Florence Pugh in there as somebody in Oppenheimer's life. Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it goes one after another. So if you're a fan of movies, Oppenheimer is like the best reward we've gotten in a long time. And I'm not saying bad things about past movies that have won Best Picture or whatever, but they've been pretty middle of the road in recent years. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I love Coda, but I don't think Coda is high art. I think this is something that you look at and you say, you know what, this guy did some planning. He did some thinking about this. It isn't, we've just got to get this shot today and we're moving on.
This movie also, I mean, you know, it did only 82 million compared to Barbie's 162, but it was on 600 fewer screens, number one. And it's 3 hours. You can only show it so many times during the course of the day. So yeah, it did half of Barbie, but in a sense, with the time and everything, it almost equaled it. You know, it just, like, if you could have shortened up the movie and threw it on more screens, it would have been right up there. People flock to this movie.
You know, last week we talked about RAGBRAI, which was the bicycle ride across Iowa. And Saturday was when I went to it. And in the theater, it was packed with bicycle riders, because I don't know if it was because they wanted to get out of the heat, but they wanted to have something to do, or they wanted to recline in a comfy seat. But it was wall to wall people in bicycle clothes. And they just loved it. They ate it up like crazy. And I don't think they slept if they were planning on doing that.
So overall, I mean, is Oppenheimer Best Picture front runner at this point for you?
Well, it is, but if you saw the previews, you saw that there's a Martin Scorsese film that's coming out. Yep. And I think that's its biggest competition. I think that's where we're going to see who's playing off whom in this. And it'll depend how it, you know, there'll be some backlash. I think we already saw today, people were counting the stars on the flags and said use the right number of stars. So there you go.
I read an interesting thing about that too, that might have actually been intentional, because there was one scene where it had the correct number of stars, and there was another scene where it was incorrect. And the theory was that because, and it the split was between color and black and white. So the perspective may have been, from one of their perspectives, the one where it was correct, remembering it as, you know, 48 states in the Union, whereas the other one was, you have the perspective of the time where there's 50 stars. I don't know if that's true, or if somebody just, you know, in set design flubbed and grabbed the wrong one, but it was an interesting theory, at least.
Clint Eastwood has done that, where he's done, you know, a period piece and then the flag is wrong.
Right.
But, you know, so it happens. Yeah. But that doesn't pull away from anything else. No. And I think, you know, he is a real stickler for not trying to recreate things in special effects. You're not going to see 10,000 names that are listed as people who did the animation for this. So I think there's a real love fest. And if Christopher Nolan doesn't win Best Director for this, it better be something good.
Absolutely. Well, next week, we're going to move probably as far away from Oppenheimer and Barbie as you can get. We have a new show. Well, I guess not a new show, but a new season of a show on Disney Plus. Yeah, ending. Do you want to just set us up on that one? What are we looking at?
Come on, High School Musical. And I know you're not of that ilk. I know that you're not from that age range. 2006, when it popped, it was unbelievable. I mean, nobody thought that a Disney movie would turn out to be that much of a phenomenon. And it launched careers not unlike other films, and then led way to High School Musical, the series, which is ending its season. In fact, they're going to drop all the episodes on one day. So if you are a High School Musical nut, you'll find out what happened to those kids in the final season. So that we're talking that next week, and we've got people from the show that we are talking to as well. So come on, we're all in this together.
I can't wait to talk with you more about that. Thank you again for listening to this episode of Streamed and Screened.
Michael J. for Hope for the Warriors. Started back in 2006 at Camp Lejeune. Military families witnessing the effects of war on their loved ones. Now, almost 20 years later, they've aided over 53,000 service members, veterans, and families with confidential, high-quality behavioral health care services at little or no cost to post 9/11 vets and their families. Over 91% of every dollar donated goes directly to the programs. If you're as concerned about our heroes as I am, go to hopeforthewarriors.org.